readers, welcome back to my channel. Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here, and welcome to my May... Oof, my camera just randomly went on its own. Welcome to my May reading recap. This month had a lot of highs and lows and mids, so it was kind of really up and down. Overall, it was a meh month. It started with two back-to-back DNFs. I don't remember what they were. I blocked them from my mind. And then I approached the third book, Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang, with a little bit of trepidation because I started reading it, and then my sister came in and we went on a trip up to Boone, North Carolina. And anytime I have to put a book down for any length of time, if I can't read it back to back to back, it negatively affects my experience. And so after I DNF'd two already, I was really concerned that I wouldn't be able to make it through this one as well. But, because you can't, when family flies in from overseas to visit, you can't just tell them to shut up and let you read. And we had a great time in Boone, and I was able to finish this up there. And I tell you, this exceeded my expectations. So Julie Chan is a supermarket cashier. Her sister, who they were separated at a young age, is a social media star. And then Julie goes to see her sister and finds that she's dead on the floor. So Julie takes over her life. She ends up getting involved with all these other influencers and living her sister's influencer life. And then things get a little bit crazy. But I was totally there for it. It was a little wacky and weird, but I loved the writing style. And so this was a plus for me. This was a good one. And at the end of last month, I had gone on a little trip in the woods. So I haven't even moved my books upstairs from that. And I was reading a lot of books about people being lost in the woods. So I decided to keep on with that for one more book. And that was What Wild Women Do by Karma Brown. This was one of the mids for me. This was just an okay book. Rowan and her fiance Seth retreat to an isolated cabin. She says to get a break from a stalled career. This time it's in the Adirondacks. I did a lot of Appalachia and other places. But then she gets involved trying to solve the mystery of a missing woman from years prior. So it's 2021 and 1975. Because a woman goes missing in 1975. After having read Heartwood and When You Find My Body about a lost hiker on the Appalachian Trail, I understand it can be hard to find. I actually just read something about another hiker last week. Hard to find individuals. In this case, in this book, I thought the individual should have been found. Anyway, but this was just an okay for me. It was a rather slow read. I had to kind of settle in with it, and it was just okay. And then I thought I wanted something light, so I moved to Wake Up Nat and Darcy. Nat and Darcy, hockey players prior. Nat's just been cut from the team. Darcy is on a news show, and anyway, they end up being co-hosts. This was, again, another okay read. It was light, it was cute, but I felt the characters were supposed to be like 35 and 38, and they read much younger to me. So they read like they were still in college and hadn't really grown any. But whatever. So the month is, with the Julie Chan aside, the month was not going great. And then, on a whim, I picked up a read with Jenna Choice, The Names by Florence Knapp. Now, I don't know, I'm not going to say anything. I loved this book. In this book, Cora is setting out to go register her son's birth. Her husband wants him to name the son after him. It's a family tradition. Her daughter makes a suggestion, and then Cora also has another idea. So, 3 names: Bear, Gordon, and Julian. 3 different lifetimes. All the paths that could have happened. And each of them they were heart-wrenching. They were sometimes fantastic. I loved this book. I really, really did. And I'm very surprised. I was very surprised by it. Spoiler alert, some people were not happy that this involved domestic violence. Domestic violence is a thing, and if you don't want to read about it, I thought it was pretty evident from the blurb that it was going to contain domestic violence. So, anywho. Next up, a most anticipated book, Dream On, Ramona Riley by Ashley Herring Blake. Ashley Herring Blake is an auto-buy for me. I discovered her years ago when I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care. No. Is it? I think that's it. Anywho, I ended up really enjoying this. I do say at the very first 2 chapters, there was a lot of info dumping. Not as much as other books that I've had to put down, but for a second, I thought that I might have to. So, this is like a normie Hollywood love story. Ramona Riley lives in a small town. Years ago, when she was 13, she had a one-night encounter with another 13-year-old girl, and it was really the love of her life. Turns out the love of her life is this Hollywood star who's kind of a wreck, and is given a second chance to be involved in a movie that's going to be set in this town. And naturally, she tries to train as the clerk that she is, and Ramona has to train her. Her name, Dylan Monroe. Anywho, and romance ensues, and they finally realize, well, Dylan finally realizes that Ramona was the girl from so long ago. So, really cute, little bit of conflict, just a very light rom-com. Got past the info dumping, and then it moved on. So, then I got on a football kick, and the reason I got on it is because Bill Belichick was all the talk in college sports news, and it got a little bit excessive. Funny thing, somebody even compared tones from a recent interview and a press conference from years ago when he was with the Patriots, and they're like, this girl has changed his tone, and he's being controlled, and elder abuse, and all this kind of stuff. Anywho, so I recently watched another piece of television. It wasn't an interview. It was like on the NFL channel, where Bill Belichick is talking to some other guys, and guess what? He has a totally different tone from his press conferences after Patriot losses. Imagine that. Anywho, so I got on a football kick, and I decided to read Friday Night Lights by Buzz Bissinger. Bissinger, I don't know. This was a fascinating read. It did send me right back to 1988, though, and it felt a little bit oppressive because of that. Not because of the book, but just because going back to when I was still very young. Well, comparatively. Anywho, so Friday Night Lights is about a year that Buzz Bissinger spent down in Odessa, Texas, in a town where Friday night football, high school football was all the rage. And my takeaway from this was really how so many of them peaked in high school and they could never get back that glory of their high school days. And it's really kind of sad, too. So this one is one of the reasons that I did not have as many books as normal read this month. This one took me 4 whole days, almost the entire week to read. Although I liked his writing style, it just read a little bit more slowly for me. That's not anything against Mr. Bissinger. It's just, this was a little bit not more difficult to read. It just took me more time. And I'll compare that to another nonfiction here in a book or two, because this one took me much longer than the other one in reading speed. Now we come to a disappointment. This next book had every ingredient that I should love. the author, I've loved her work before. One piece of work of hers, A Haunted House, a kind of twist at the end. It just didn't work for me. And I'm talking about We Live Here now. Oh, short chapters, dual perspectives. But I felt that I never really could connect with the main characters. There's a third main character, and that is a crow. I connected more with the crow than with the man and wife, husband and wife, whatever you want to call them. The other two main characters. And so the female main character, whose name is Emily, and her husband Freddie. So Emily, this starts after Emily has recovered from, or is still recovering from, a tragic accident, although we're never clear if it's an accident or not. And anywho, she falls off a cliff, goes into a coma, blah blah blah. While she's out, the husband buys a house. They move into the house, but some strange things start happening. I actually really liked the premise of it. But again, it had every ingredient to make it a 5-star read, but it just wasn't for me. And I ended up giving it like 3 stars. It may have been timing. It may have been something else. I don't see myself reading it again. I love the edges, but it just didn't work for me, and it made me really sad. Okay, now, at this point, we're just in front of the Memorial Day weekend, and I've decided to incorporate more nonfiction into my weekly reading, and so I chose to read The Good Soldiers by David Finkel. I stumbled across this in the Barnes & Noble when I was looking at other books about U.S. military history. The Good Soldiers is about a battalion of soldiers, 216 Infantry Battalion, from who are in Iraq in 2007 or so. Let's not be lazy. It's 2007. Every chapter is dated a different date. And this one probably only took me 2.5 days to read compared to Friday Night Lights. And there's a possibility that this was so much easier to me because it was familiar to me. Whereas Friday Night Lights covered football and Texas politics and national politics, and it did kind of feel oppressive to me. So the setting and everything, and it's just more comfortable read for me. Even though the read was not comfortable, I read it much more quickly. This is heart-wrenching. It made me think about the soldiers, not only the soldiers who don't come home, but the soldiers who do come home and are never the same again, either physically or mentally. Another thing that I came across is a journalist who I follow on Twitter posted a list of names of people that he knew that were lost to war. And many of them were KIA, but then about 12 of them were suicide. So I spent time this Memorial Day weekend thinking about the soldiers the wars killed after they came home. And this book has a follow-up book called Thank You for Your Service, which I have in there. I'm going to take a minute before I read it, but it talks about the mental health issues and coming back from war and how it has changed them. So I needed a light, fluffy break, and this month, for the most part, ended on a positive note with one other disappointment. I went on a Sarah Adams kick. I'm going to just skim root through these really quickly because yesterday I posted my weekend books where I do kind of a deep dive on this. This is part of my football kick, the cheat sheet. This is a friends to lovers romance, very light, very cute, a very appropriate follow-up to such a heavy, dark book like The Good Soldiers. Then I read the follow-up book to the cheat sheet, the rule book, and this was also really, I needed both of those to get over my Memorial Day weekend read. On this next one, I'm afraid that some of my disappointment came from really a disappointment about the previous book by this author that I read. And I'm talking about Nora Roberts' Hidden Nature. Again, I do a deep dive into why I was disappointed in this in yesterday's video, my week in books. But I have been ride or die Nora Roberts all my life. I'm going to continue to drive on as long as I can. But this just really... I feel like there are things that she does great and now she's overdoing them. And I'm talking about descriptions and such. So, I read the book. I enjoyed it for the most part. It just went on a little too long and I couldn't connect with the bad guys in the book. And I feel like you should connect with the bad guy in some way. When I say connect with, I mean find that character believable and fully fleshed out. Even if I don't like... Sometimes when I hate a character in a book, that's fantastic, because if an author can make me hate a character, they're bringing out emotions in me. Whereas I really couldn't care less about any of the characters in this book, good or bad. Anywho. And then, because Nora Roberts was a disappointment, and that makes me sad, I've read Nora Roberts my entire life, and I want to continue. I just am disappointed. Anyway, I needed a palate cleanser, and so I went back to Sarah Adams, and I read The Match, and look, I don't have a dog. I look at them on the internet all the time, but dogs are much more high maintenance than I can take care of. I know myself. I can take care of my cat because he's pretty self-sufficient and independent. And, but he doesn't, I don't have to take him out to go on a walk or anything like that. So a dog is just too high maintenance for me and my lifestyle, but I love to read books with dogs in them, especially when the dog does not get injured or die. Abby Jimenez does animals really well in her books, so I really appreciate that, and I really enjoyed this. This one was involved service dogs and how they help individuals with illnesses, or I don't know what else to call them, but great book, very cute, very light. Anywho, I kind of sped through that really quickly. The month just flew by, and I'm hoping that June will have more highs than lows. June is Pride Month, so I'm working right now on a sapphic take on the Selkie Wife folktale. I've lost my words. And so after that, I might go back to Sarah Adams, because this is one of 2 books set in the same location, Charleston, South Carolina. Anywho, that is it for me. If you stuck with me this long, yesterday I said I was going to do a People Are Mad on the Internet segment. I won't do that for my monthly reading recaps because they're usually covering a lot of books. But I will try to keep it in my weekend books every week moving forward. Anywho, like I said, if you stuck with me this long, thank you for sticking with me on my journey, and as always, happy reading.